Well, welcome to another episode of Theology, where, as usual, I've got my cup of tea in a nice Gloucester Cathedral mug and my copy of the Confession. And so we just finished chapter 5 on providence, so that brings us to chapter 6, excuse me there, which is of the fall of man, sin, and of the punishment thereof. So you can kind of think of the flow that the confession is going through. It speaks first on Scripture, which is the special revelation the way in which we can learn about God. Then it speaks about God and then the things that God does, such as create and then rule and reign over his creation providence. And so that would naturally, in a sense, lead us to God's first big act of providence, of directing the course of human history, which is the first major event recorded of humanity in the scriptures, which is the fall of Adam and Eve, the temptation by Satan, and sort of plunging the rest of the world into the sin and darkness as a consequence of that. And that's what chapter 6 is going to be dealing with. So I'll start with section 1, and again, comment briefly. So our first parents, being seduced by the subtlety and temptation of Satan, sinned in eating the forbidden fruit. This their sin God was pleased, according to his wise and holy counsel, to permit, having purposed to order it to his own glory. And again, that section now, in light of what we've already read, shouldn't really surprise us. That even this terrible event of the world being plunged into darkness and sin was not outside of God's control. But again, as we note here, as the confession has reminded us, as the Bible speaks to us, yes, it's a mystery, but the sin, the disobedience, the rebellion is laid at the feet of Satan and our first parents, and not upon God. And also, I think that brings us into a corollary of what the confession here is speaking of, using very much just biblical language, is the necessity of Adam and Eve, of their special creation. Adam as the head of all humanity, that he is both necessary and real. That original sin traces itself back to Adam, and that Jesus Christ is spoken of as the second Adam, the one coming to undo the curse that was laid down after Adam and Eve sinned. And so the confession affirms, just as the Bible does, that Adam was a real historical person. But anyway, hope you're enjoying this day with a cup of tea. And if you've got any questions, any comments, we'd always love to have them, love to hear them. And once again, thanks for joining me.